having some way for people just to like try it out was definitely one of our goals. And so we have two different courses. We have a short course, which is really like a super sprint. And then we have the long course.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 175 of the show. We've got a fun episode for everyone this week. Joining us to do a deep dive on the Bellingham swimrun is race director Brent Molsberry. This local event in northern Washington is perfect for beginners and seasoned swimrunners alike, and we touch on everything you need to know to put this race on your list. And we even let you know which real estate agent you should use when planning on moving to Bellingham, should you choose to.
Brandon Nelson Partner, Realtor Partners. But first, we're super excited to announce that this course preview episode is sponsored by Dryrobe. We wanted to introduce you to the brand new Dryrobe Lite. The Dryrobe Lite is the latest cutting-edge innovation from the makers of the original outdoor changing robe and our favorite, warmth vehicle on the way to and from the pool.
Yeah, blanket jacket.
Blanket jacket every Monday. That's
Friday, what my daughter calls it. She's like, "Are you wearing your blanket jacket?"
Absolutely. Is she aware of the Dryrobe Lite yet?
She is.
That's good. Spoiler, it's awesome. For kids and adults alike. What makes the new Dryrobe Lite so cool? Well, it's made using reprise fabric and used from at least 37 recycled bottles. So they're sustainable. It's also super packable compared to its more original Dryrobe, which is a little bit heftier, a little bit more warmth provided on that one, but hence the light. And what makes it look cool? It looks cool too.
It actually just looks cool.
That's impressive. So I actually used it this week, and I was doing a little pacing for my friend. He was running an ultra marathon. I finished, and I'm like, I need to get out of these sweaty running clothes. I parked on the side of the road, no great changing area, no problem. Threw on the Dryrobe, did a quick change in there, brought my arms in, and did all that, and then I was good as gold.
No call from the police station.
There was no indecent exposure tickets written or anything like that from the city of Stinson Beach. The Dryrobe Lite is now available on dryrobe.com. Go further with Dryrobe Lite.
Nice job.
Now for training update. So the training continues as we barrel towards Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay in early July. Stoked. Majorly stoked on that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
In other training news, Chris has officially graduated. Congratulations. From his remedial swim program, or return to swim program, I think is probably a more fair description of it, that he was on. And henceforth, he's on to the quote-unquote big boy swims for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And
started yesterday, or, from time of recording on a Monday.
It started already. But training's been going, and we've been doing a lot of talking off the record about how training's going, and I know we kind of talked about this, and this is something that you're practicing, Chris, a lot with your sort of, you've been working a lot on your mental game and your mind being and kind of reflecting on that, and that's a really cool piece. I think you should share more about, but also sort of changing the approach to training on you looking at every training session or workout or however you look at it as an opportunity to test and refine something, whether that be your mental approach or your reflection on the session, how you're fueling the session. And that's been something that I've really been leaning into is our friend of the pod, Mario of the Morning Shakeout, had a great episode, one of his pillars of performance that they had a nutrition person on as well. Link in the show notes there. But really approaching every session as a training for your nutrition. And that's something I've been doing. And even just in one or two sessions, I feel I'm better able to execute at the levels that I want to execute the workout, whether that be holding the run splits or hitting the swim splits that you want to hit with more energy. And then you're not totally destroyed after if you kind of feel your sessions better. So I've just been really enjoying that in the training. So wanted to share it with you all.
That's good.
But yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah. I've been taking this performance psychology training plan. So it's basically kind of superimposed on your physical training. It's essentially mental training. And I don't know, I've been on a huge mindfulness kick, and this has been really, really helpful. So again, I thank Mario Frioli for introducing me to this guy. His name is Dr. Justin Ross. It's just been really great. I feel like this year, I don't think I've ever reflected on my workouts as much as I have.
Yeah.
And in swimming in particular, I mean, I've been sort of like getting all mushy with you, Chipper, being like, hey man, just letting you know, like, this is what I've been thinking about, and this is how I'm feeling about your work and how happy I am for you. And, you know, you're super strong right now, and it's awesome. So I'm like stoked for you. But all that is part of like, you know, one swim. It's all about setting your intention for the workout. You know, what are my performance standards for it? Am I living up to the spirit of the workout? Even if it's the pace might be slow or whatever it is, am I like giving it, am I actually giving 85% effort regardless of conditions or whatever, that type of thing. And I think it's been really helpful, and also it's helped me kind of compartmentalize my training swim run life from sort of other parts of my life, like my work and family life. Like, I think I'm just more present and balanced with everything. So it's been cool. I've been enjoying my training, I think, more than I ever have. Each day is just like an opportunity for, you know, to be present and be, you know, have gratitude and all that stuff. So it's been fun.
Absolutely. Fun. I've been taking a page, you know, obviously Chris is hot on this topic, and I've been
sending you some good ones.
Yeah, I've been listening, and I'm not doing it to the extent that you are. But I'll be driving home and I'm like, hey, that was a good swim because you know, it's not necessarily, oh, I got a new PR in my 100 free or whatever. It's like, hey, the workout was fast, medium, slow, and I executed really well on the fast, medium, slow bits. And one, not only just sort of having more positive thoughts and affirmations in your head naturally just makes you kind of be more positive about that. So if that's the only thing you did, how is that not a win in your life? And it's we're talking a minute thought on your drive or your walk, even from the locker room to your car. Hey, what went well in this workout? Maybe what is some stuff to work on, or what didn't go, like reflecting on the good and the bad. And then that's sort of that time for reflection. And then you can kind of, like Chris said, you can move on from being so present with that workout. And now you can focus on, okay, now I'm at my work. Or now I'm hanging with family or whatever.
The part of the training where I'm at now, it's all about sort of developing like positive self-talk and your own mantras, and kind of using figuring out what's going to work for you, speaking positively about yourself. So don't beating yourself up, just like trying to be positive. But anyway, it's good stuff. And we'll probably try to get Justin Ross on the show at some point, because I'm super stoked on this guy.
Absolutely. Well, that's enough about us. On to this week's shout out.
Well, this one's also kind of about us. This week we're shouting out everyone that showed up for our Lake James post-race Zoom party. It was a good group of folks. It was really fun and also harrowing to hear some of the war stories from race day. And folks got to get a lot of training tips from the likes of Marcus and Beek, Trista and Amy, the Dierksens. It was great. Every time we do one of these, I am amazed and just filled with surprise on some level that people show up. And it was great.
Yeah, we had a good mix of swimrun veterans and even swimrun newbies that, like James, with their first race, or they just heard about, maybe they didn't even do the race, but the feedback we got on that is really great. And we do have these sort of meetups for our Patreon exclusive. So if you're in our Patreon, we do one a quarter, and it's just an hour sort of open swimrun chat there. But thanks if you came out to that. Thank you so much. And if not, make sure keep your eyes peeled for the next one.
Yeah.
Now for Wisdom Nugget of the Week. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Carl Jung. I like it.
Yeah.
Talk's cheap. We say that a lot.
Talk is cheap. Ideas are cheap. Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
But I don't think that one requires too much. It's just like, hey, man, you got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, totally. And I think sometimes, the theme of the wisdom nuggets that we've been having is people, maybe you get caught up in like, oh, I want to train for this event or whatever. What's the best shoes? What's the best gear? Whatever. What's the best training plan? What's the best workout? The best workout is just to get started and just to have some consistency and just get started laying that down. And that's what you are doing if you just start doing the workout rather than just talking about it.
Totally.
People who aren't just talking about it, people who are doing, they're getting the Feats of Endurance Award. So, back to me. This week's winner is friend of the pod, Alex Sheen from the UK. He's been striving, walking around during the coronation that took place last week, and you may have heard about it. Good stuff. I love the Strava everything approach.
Yeah. Hey, he was walking around.
He was. I think dodging some crowds or trying to get out from that probably rather packed, hectic event. So whether you were watching the coronation happen live or just doling out kudos on Strava, make sure to join the Low Tide Boys Strava Club. Go to Strava, search Low Tide Boys, and join all the fun there and swimrunners from around the world as they train for life stuff and coronation viewing parties. Now we're sending it over to Chris in the news desk for This Week in Swimrun.
All right, now for the news. The Lagoa Swimrun is set to take place this weekend in Portugal. As with all of Swimrun Portugal's events, this one looks amazing with warm water swims and views for days. And as with most of their events, they have distances for everyone, including a kids race, which we love. That I think at this point, all of their races have sort of a kid race, which is just great. Now, our friends at Swimrun del Venancio recently announced their race date of June 4th for this year's event. This race takes place in Barberino di Mugello in the Tuscany region of Italy, which is close to Florence. This race offers 2 distance options, but most importantly, did we mention that this race takes place in Tuscany? Dare I say they should have some gnocchi at the aid station, stuff like that. Another thing that's interesting about this race, Chipper.
All you can eat salad and breadsticks?
When you're there, your family?
Yeah.
They only offer solos.
Oh.
So it isn't a teams event. It's a solo event that qualify for the, Aqua Runner World Champs.
Okay.
So in Attila news, the company announced that they're revamping the World Championship points ranking system. So this is huge. So this is what I'm just going to say what they wrote. Starting this season, the first 30 World Series teams of each category will be awarded with points, where the winning teams will earn a maximum of 60 points. In addition, you can earn 50% of the points by finishing in the top 30 of any Attila merit race. Based on all the accumulated points that you collect during the 2023 season, the best swim runners of the new ranking system will earn a spot for Attila, the Swimrun World Championship 2024. Besides the podiums of the World Championship in 2023, there will be no direct qualification for Attila, the Swimrun World Championship in 2024. Yeah, so the ranking system will be immediately implemented, but will only count towards classification for the 2024 World Championship. If you still want to qualify for this year's World Championship, you can still earn direct spots at this year's World Series races, qualify through an Attila merit race, or apply for director's choice as in the past. Now, so what does this mean? That means any of these races, only the first 30 teams that finish in each division get points. So if you're, DFL or something, you're not getting points. So I think that might make it, in my opinion, harder for some teams to qualify if you're just like, hey, I just got to get enough races in to accumulate enough points. Now it's like, hey, you actually need to be, at least in the top half on some of the fields.
But this
also
is all for merit races though too. So it might not even, for example, the men's long course merit race category had 3 teams in it.
Right, might not have 30. Exactly, same thing for women's teams or mixed teams. So it might not be as big a deal, but that's the one thing that looks really different. It looks like, we're not going to be getting thousands of points anymore.
Yes, and they kind of removed the point decay system and the 2-year rolling 24-month thing. So it seems like it's just a lot easier to understand, a little bit simpler, but it's still very much based around how you do and perform at merit races, which there are plenty in the United States as well.
Sure,
all those are also listed on our website, so we have all the races in the United States there. So head on over at lowtideboys.com, check that out, and then we also will have this stuff documented on the page as well.
That was Chipper with a report from the field.
Sorry. I'm like jumping in every category.
Correspondent Chipper Nicodemus. Yes, no, I think all that stuff is well taken. And what this press release didn't say, and I think we'll want to get to the bottom of it, is there still director's choice? Or be like, what's the status of other ways for people to potentially qualify for the race?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point.
Yeah, well, that's it for this week. Reach out to us if there's any swimrun news you'd like for us to share on the show.
Yes, now for a little bit of show business. So swimrun season has either started or it's about to start for most folks in the United States, and that means getting your kit and gear sorted. So if you're looking to unload or load up on some new gear, head over to the Swimrun Swap Meet on Facebook, link in the show notes, and help yourself to some new kit, whether it's your old shoes that you're not using, a wetsuit that you've graduated beyond, listed on there, and people will also be posting, I've noticed, more in search of women's swimrun kit size, medium side of things. So that's a great place. There's over 400 or 500 people in that group as well somehow on Facebook. So head on over there.
Yeah, and if you want to be part of the Low Tide Boys gear loaning program and you happen to be either a small tall or a medium tall men's, we might have a wetsuit for you. So reach out to us in the DMs.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great place if you're looking for new gear or even some questions about gear to head over there. Now, let's jump into our conversation and course preview for the Bellingham Swimrun.
Yeah, Chipper, we mention it often on the show, but to actually grow the sport of swimrun in the U.S., we need more local events that cater to beginners that are looking to try the sport, and get their shoes wet, so to speak. Nice. Bellingham Swimrun is just such a swimrun, and it's a gem. Joining us on this course preview is Brent Molsberry. He's a previous guest of the show, friend of the pod, race director for Quest Races and Ödyssey Swimrun, Sophie's dad, and Ann Molsberry's husband. So he checks off a lot of boxes.
He indexes high in the swimrun categories. It's
like 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, 5 degrees from Brent Molsberry. Now, in this conversation, we get an overview of the Bellingham, Washington area, why it's such a great location for swimrun. We share the name of the best real estate agent in the West Coast, and also provide a course preview of both their long and short course distances that they offer.
Yeah, always great to talk to Brent, and the courses seem amazing.
Yep.
Also really great. We have I think this swim run, we know the team tethered together since birth. The Mistero twins, this is where they first learned and caught the swim run bug. So there's always be a little tie-in to that. But if you're in the Pacific Northwest, and June 11th, I believe it is, make your way over to questraces.com and find out more info about that. But
definitely,
without any further ado, we're going to kick it over to conversation with Brent about the Bellingham Swimrun course preview. Long and short, might add.
Yeah. Thank you, dryrobe. dryrobe.com.
Go further with dryrobe light.
Yes.
Go further lighterly with dryrobe light.
Go lightly.
Tread lightly and go further.
Okay, Brent Molsberry, former guest of the show, all the way back in episode 47. Year one, to talk about Quest Races and the Bellingham Swimrun. Welcome back to the show, Brent.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, super stoked to have you on. This year, as we've talked about, off air, this is a year where we're just really trying to grow the sport and just showcase all the races that are out there and ways for folks to experience swim run. And one of the things that Chipper and I always harp on is the importance of having your local event, supporting your local event. So let's do sort of a brief history of Quest Races and kind of how you got into sort of the swim run race directing biz, such as it is?
Yeah. Yeah. So Quest Races has been around since about 2011, 2012. And we started out with adventure races initially and did a number of years of those, having adventure races out in the San Juan Islands and also in the Bellingham area, and also having a Quest Races team that has competed at the World Championships and has won the national championship in the past, the U.S. Adventure Racing National Championship. And through that, doing some race directing and meeting friends, I had a good friend of mine who lives out on San Juan Island who heard about swim run and realized there wasn't a swim run anywhere near us. And so he just reached out to me, knowing as I did races, and was like, "Hey, we need to put one of these on." And I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he's like, "Here, check this video out." And so sent me a video and I watched it and we kind of talked it over. And so we came up with the Bellingham swim run as kind of a way to try this whole sport out in the Northwest. And
Nice.
so 2017 was our first year for the Bellingham swim run. And we've been going every year since, minus a couple COVID misses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you get a pass on those. I like how your friend was like, "Let me talk to Brent. He does this type of stuff, general stuff. Let me throw this ball to him and see if he catches it." And you're a resident in Bellingham,
Correct.
which is why it's a backyard race for you, nearly.
It's a total backyard race. I mean, as we were talking before the show, my wife and I actually went up and did the short course today. It was our first swim run of the season, and it's about 2 miles from my house to Lake Patton where this event takes place.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. Love it. And then for those of you who don't know, Brent also is a co-race director for Ödyssey's Orca Islands race, just a few hours north in the San Juan Islands that Brent just mentioned. And so this is a great entry-level local event, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about it when it takes place June 11th.
It does. And if you're wondering where it is, it's in Bellingham, and it's called the Bellingham Swim Run,
There you go.
which is presented by one of our favorite realtor, and
Yeah.
dare I say, also the official realtor of the Low Tide Boys, a swimrun podcast, Brandon Nelson Partners Realtors. And we know Brandon's listening. We love you, dude. Thank you for the support. He's a patron on Patreon, and yeah, we met him when we did Orcas a few years back, and yeah, we've been buddies ever since. And it's great that you're getting the local support for this event, because as we've talked about, the most important thing to grow the sport of swimrun is having these sort of grassroots, low barrier to entry sort of swim runs where folks can just kind of cut their teeth without having to worry about like just some crazy thing that might seem too daunting. So when you're designing a race like this, Brent, I'd love to get your thoughts on, was that kind of on your radar? It's like, hey, we have Lake Patton here, which is like a pretty good location for this. Let's try to make something that's accessible and fun, and something that folks can just really just get the majesty of swim run without the, the adversity. So
That's a good way to put
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And a lot of this comes from my adventure race background, where back in the 90s, adventure racing was really big, but basically there were a few like really big, crazy hard adventure races, and there was nothing for like the short intro thing. I mean, the first ever adventure race I did was we finished in 6 days of nonstop racing. And that was like my intro to adventure racing, because there wasn't the 3-hour races and stuff out there. And so
Right to the deep end.
why
That's-
not
that's a
just
big-
jump in, right?
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
hurdle to jump.
Yeah. I mean, you just go in both feet, just go for it.
Yeah.
But
See you in a week.
not everybody's comfortable with that idea. And, you need to build it up. You look at running races, and, for every marathon that's out there, there's, dozens and dozens of 5Ks and 10Ks. And so having these local events that you can kind of just go to and you can try out a new sport was a big thing that we were looking for. And when you look at most swim runs, like they tend to be on the longer side. So, that you're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6 hours for most of the swim runs that are out there, particularly the long courses. And the world championships are massive, 65K. And so having some way for people just to like try it out was definitely one of our goals. And so we have two different courses. We have a short course, which is really like a super sprint. And then we have the long course, which if you compare it to Orcus, the Bellingham long course is still easier than the Orcus short course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't we, before we get into, we're going to do sort of a leg-by-leg breakdown on this, but Bellingham, pretty easy to get to. There's an airport in Bellingham. You can also fly to Seattle and drive up. So why don't you give us kind of like your key, like let's say someone's giving you the key to the city for your tourism, for your work. Can you just pitch us on Bellingham as a destination?
Bellingham we feel very lucky to live here. It's a phenomenal place. We have just tons of recreation all around here. Right from our house, we can be to Bellingham Bay is about a mile away. Lake Paddon's 2 miles away. Lake Whatcom's 3 miles away. I can run 3 blocks of pavement from my house, hop a trail, and I can end up 25 miles away in a different county, all on trails. So like the access to recreation for mountain biking, for trail running, is just phenomenal. The Chuckanut 50K starts about a half mile from our house. Where the Bellingham Swimrun is up at Lake Paddon. That's also the home to the Lake Paddon Triathlon, the Bellingham Off-Road Triathlon, a couple different mountain bike races. It's a very popular park with a fantastic trail system surrounding this beautiful lake.
Plenty to do, especially June.
Especially in June.
Yeah. So it sounds like stay the weekend.
If you like, stay the weekend. If you like beer, we've got tons of breweries here in Bellingham. Plenty of options for you. Chipper. It's just a beautiful place and great time to visit.
We're sold.
I'm sold.
Also,
if you need a house, Chris,
it's gonna go right there, dude.
If you need a house, I know just the guy.
Yeah, I know a great guy who can get you a beautiful house anywhere here in town.
Brandon Nelson Partners Realtors, baby.
He'll get it done. He'll get it done. Him and his team will get it done for you. And okay, so let's that was too good. Should we dive into we have both, you offer both a team, so the 2-person team, or there is the solo event, and that's for both the short course and the long course. So you really, if you're a triathlete or a trail runner who's sort of not afraid to get wet, you've got some solo divisions for you.
Yeah. Do you like trail running and also know how to swim? Swimrun might be for you.
Yep.
So let's talk about these courses a little bit, because they seem pretty different on paper. The long course is essentially 7 miles of running, 2 miles of swimming, split between 6 swimming sections. But the vert, it's 1,100 feet of climbing. So why don't you give us the lay of the land of the long course and kind of like walk us through what the leg by leg breakdown of that.
Yeah, so the long course is, like I say, it's not as hard as the Orcas Island short course, but it is it's a great training leg for that. So if you come and you're thinking like, I want to do Orcas, come out, do the Bellingham long course. And if you can do that, feel pretty good. By the end of the summer, you'll be in good shape for the Orcas short course. And nice. If you want to do it twice, then you're part way to the Orcas long course. The long course is kind of fun because it actually starts with a swim, which you don't see that often in swim runs. And so it starts with a swim, and that initial swim is about 400 meters. Basically shoots straight across the lake from the start area to the west side of the lake. And then that first exit is a fairly steep, rocky exit. So it's kind of entertaining to get your first transition being scrambling up a steep, rocky slope. Then you've got about 1 kilometer to run that's mostly flat. Basically, Lake Padden, there's a 2.5 mile trail that goes all the way around Lake Padden. That's a like 10-foot wide gravel path. Nice. And so you run on that gravel path, and this initial leg is there's not much vert on that initial running leg. Swim 2 starts at the boat launch and goes to kind of the south end of the lake, and that's about 700 meters, almost 800 yards. That one, sometimes you're kind of into the wind a little bit. The wind tends to come out of the south, but it's a pretty straightforward swim there. Once you pop out from swim 2, this is the big run. Mm-hmm. And so this is over a 5K run, and it's got like 650 feet of elevation gain and loss. You get a nice little bit of warm up flat, and then you hit the single track. And this portion of the trail is often referred to as the expert loop by mountain bikers. And so you're doing a good portion of the expert loop there. And basically it's a nice climb up through twisting trails through the forest. Like you're going next to 4 and 5 foot diameter Doug firs and western cedars. Nice. Kind of you feel like you're in the land of the Ewoks. And you think you're done, you hit the high point, and then you start your descent, but then there's one really steep climb still to come on that run before you get back to swim number 3. And so that run is one that can really surprise people. But once you get through that run, like everything kind of shortens up a little bit for you, because the next swim goes along the west side of the lake about halfway down, and it's about 600 yards. And then you'll pop out and you get a little more flat running, and I like hills. So you get some more hills in there too. And you're going to loop up on what are called the horse trails on the west side of the lake. And you'll actually come back in after that run leg at the same place that you got out. And now you're going to swim to the very kind of northwest end of the lake. And that next swim is your longest of the day at 830 yards. And so that one, you want to be prepared for it. And once we kind of get out on that swim, it's at the far end of the lake where the outflow is, and there's a dock down there. There'll be an aid station there. And now you've just got a series of kind of smaller runs and smaller swims. So you've got about a 1.25 mile run, followed by what we call the reed swim. It's about a 200-yard swim. And that one, you basically like swim along the shoreline, and then at the Brandon Nelson partner buoy, you take a hard left, and there's a nice little path that's going to shoot you right through these reeds. And then you've just got one more run to go. And this guy's a pretty short, fast run. It's about a 1/2 mile long. And so you're kind of pushing on that one. You hop in the water down by the dock, by the outflow. And then it's about almost 500-yard swim to the finish from there. So you start with a swim and you finish with a swim.
I like it. It. It seems like this is the type of course too that, has a little bit of everything for everyone. I mean, the swims don't look like they're really technical. Only looks like swim run and swim 6 are actually swimming across the lake. The rest of them are kind of hugging the shorelines. Tell us a little bit about sort of the water conditions and what folks can expect in the water.
Yeah, the lake, we were in there today, and it's probably upper 40s, low 50s right now. But by race day, it's probably going to be low to mid 60s race-wise. Last year, there was actually a pretty good breeze, and it generally comes out of the south. And so like that last swim in particular kind of worked some people over because it was into the wind pretty solid.
Nice.
I mean, the lake's pretty well protected. The nice thing is like there's no combustion engines on the lake or anything like that. So there's no boat traffic or anything to worry about, just some kayakers. But the water tends to be, as long as it's not gusting too hard, pretty friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like, and like Chris was attesting to, it still has the adventure aspects of it with the scramble exits, and the mountain, good hill trail.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole the entire course is on trail. You're never on pavement at any point. You get some of the stuff around the lake where it's a little flatter, we can kind of recover, but the bulk of the running is on technical single track. And so you'll get plenty of ups, plenty of downs, wet, slippery routes, muddy sections. It's super fun running.
Sounds like a swim run to me. And there's aid stations. You got a couple aid stations at that swim 2-4.
Yep. So swim 2 and then the start of 3. There's an aid station there that you'll go through twice. And then there's a second aid station, but you actually get through there if you want to stop there 3 different times. So plenty of places to fuel up and hydrate to keep you going.
Nice. Awesome. And the short course is a completely different route than the long course. It's not it's just whittled back a little bit. So
which I love. I'm just going to say it's nice that the long course isn't just 2 loops of the short course or something like that. Like it's its own course, and it looks really fun. The short, what we're calling the sprint course.
Yeah. So like we were talking about, the swim run tends to be like super long and it can be kind of intimidating for folks. And so we wanted to come up with something that was very approachable for anybody. And so kind of designed this course. It's a 5K, it's 4K running, 1K swimming.
Nice.
And it is super fun. That's what we did today. There's a group, including Brandon Nelson of Brandon Nelson Partner Realtors, that meets every Friday morning at 6 a.m. and does the short course. And it's super fun, and it's very different than your typical swim run, because typically like you're in it for the long game, right? Like it's such a long event that you're kind of like pacing. That short course, nothing's very long. So you feel like, oh, well, I can just push this. Cause like, this first run is only like less than a mile. Like I can run a mile and it's pretty flat. I can run that pretty fast. And then you go hit the first swim, and the first swim's 220 yards. And it's like, oh, that's no problem. I can push 220 yards.
Yeah.
And then the second run, which is your longest run, is still only like 1.3 miles. That is a fairly hilly run. So you're going to feel it, but you can push that really hard too. Cause then your next swim, you're still only at like 200 yards, 210 yards. And so like, because everything is shorter, you can really push it if you want to, and kind of just like red line, which is so different than your typical swim runs. And it's really fun. I use it as a training route a lot, because I can go out there and hop on that thing and be done in an hour, and I get multiple transitions and like a really good workout. But at the same time, it's totally approachable for somebody that's like, I don't know if I can do this or not. It's like, anybody can hop out there and do this. I've had people who are literally in their 70s do that 5K course. My wife did it when she was like 6 weeks postpartum and just walked it and then swam the swimming sections and just had a great time with her teammate. And so it's like really approachable for anybody, and just a great introduction to the sport without a really big barrier to entry.
Yeah, I mean, that one is like on the website, 3.24 miles of running and 1,100 yards. So pretty approachable. And again, as you mentioned, none of the swims are really long except for the last swim, which is about less than 500 yards. And that's really the only swim that kind of goes across the lake. I mean, this thing, yeah, it looks super fun. It looks like, as you mentioned, I think it's the type of course where you can get a lot out of it. Like, a lot of different things. That you want a red line, go for it. You want to just experience and cut your teeth on it, you can do that as well, while getting all the what I think Chipper and I would agree are the fun elements of swim run, which is you're not on a road, you're in nature, you're in a picturesque place. Yep. So it seems to check off a lot of boxes, and I'd love to hear from you. Since you've been doing this race for a while, kind of what have been like the participants? Has it been like all kinds, like folks are new to the sport, don't know what's going on, showing up with no wetsuit, maybe. Tell us a little bit about sort of like the clientele that this race has been attracting.
Yeah, it's great because it's just a very diverse group. You have everything from like some very fast swim runners who like a lot of folks in the Northwest here who also have experience with doing Orcas and even traveling to some of the other races. The Swim Run Labs crew, this was the first ever swim run they did, and they've competed in it pretty much every year. And then you have people who are like, maybe they're triathletes and they just want to try it. I mean, I had a guy do it in a Speedo, whole thing, just in a Speedo. And he loved it. Yeah. And then you've got, yeah, I mean, you have people that are just like not really big into sports or races, but just wanted to give it a shot. And they're going out and they're just with their teammate and they're just having a great time. I mean, I've had, like I say, a woman, I think she's in her 70s, and she finished the short course and just loved it. And like I met her out there a couple times before and worked on transitions and stuff so that she was comfortable with that aspect, and she just absolutely loved it. And so it's really cool to see just the diversity of people that this is accessible to.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, again, this is something Chipper and I harp on a lot on this show. Is just like, hey, if we're going to grow the sport, like, not everyone's going to be able to go to Casco Bay as their first swim run. Like, we need to have local events, which is, as you mentioned, Brent, like, for every marathon out there, there's your local turkey trots and local 5K, 10Ks where people can sort of just discover a passion for it. So I commend you for putting on this race, and I thank you for keeping it going, especially like after COVID when everything got wonky there. And I'm curious, just because I can't help myself, any plans for more races in the future?
I mean, we've had other races in the past. We had a Seattle swim run.
Oh, that's right.
We had it 1 year, and the permitting issues have become prohibitively expensive. Basically, apparently the 1 year we had it, it just missed someone's desk and they signed off on it and it was all good. And then the next year they told us that we would have to have 2 different Seattle PD boats out there for safety. And we were going to have to pay for 4 cops overtime for like 6 hours, which for a small local event is definitely not in the budget. So, you know, I'd love to find a way to get that race going again. That was actually, I mean, it's kind of an oasis down there in Seattle called Seward Park. It's this peninsula that sticks out into Lake Washington, and it's got old growth trees on it. And like, you're running through those trails and you're like, I would have no idea that I'm in a city until I get to the shoreline. And I'm on the shoreline of this beautiful peninsula. And, I can see really big buildings over there. You know, there's some other places that we kind of look at. Permitting is always an issue, and getting the permitting agencies to kind of like understand what this race is and what swim run is, has continued to be a challenge. I would love to get some more events going, but, it's surprising how challenging the permitting can be at times.
You know, and that just sucks. I mean, we've heard a bunch of races, Bend Racing's event that was supposed to happen. They had permitting issues. Whistler was having permitting issues. Swimrun Whistler, which was a new race that was going to come online this year. I mean, I'm sure like our European friends are just like stupid Americans, like you and your litigious society. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a hurdle to overcome, and maybe that's a place where, you know, every swimrun race director needs to get together and come up with some best practices on how to deal with
navigate
these permitting agencies, because I mean, it's, again, the impediment for growing the sport is people's ability to try it. And,
absolutely.
You know, and I guess like, you know, upstream from that are permitting agencies either not understanding what's going on or, you know, just not caring, fortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it with the permitting agencies is just, there's been so much of an increase in recreation use, period. And then, a lot of it is them like being super concerned about safety and that kind of stuff, where, like I say, the Seattle race, we had it 1 year, went great, no issues. And then ended up on somebody else's desk, and they suddenly had huge issues with it. So it's kind of finding those people that'll work with you and kind of at least hear you out and hear that swim runners, like, I know we look a little weird because we're running through the woods in wetsuits and all, but we're actually pretty good folks.
I think we need to come up with like a YouTube playlist to send these folks. Be like, here, you want to know what swimrun is? Here's 4.5 hours of videos.
Because they definitely have time and patience for that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. So if you're checking your flights up to Bellingham, head on over to questraces.com, QUEST races.com, and that's where you can find the Bellingham swim run, all the details there to register. There's even a little highlight video on YouTube for from the last one they had in 2021. And check out the course map, register, check out local listings on Brandon Nelson Partner Realtors as well if you're in the market.
Area. Yeah, for sure.
See what the housing situation looks like.
You wouldn't be the first swim runner who moved up here and used Brandon to buy real estate.
That's advertising is paying off.
Well, if we ever move to Bellingham,
without a doubt, I know who I'm contacting.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And you better hook it up too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and you should move to Bellingham because, like, this area really is it's kind of a swim run mecca. Like, the water can definitely be a little bit cold, but between the trail systems and the mountains and the lakes that we have around here, it's pretty amazing how much swim run is out there, even outside of events, but just going out and exploring. We have a lot of fun doing that in the bay and in the lakes around here.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a good little training nugget too, is come do the Bellingham swim run, and then you kind of have a local swim run spot to go to meet up with folks as well. Once you kind of figure out a little course, and I'm sure Brent has 10 different ways you can do this course to rack up different whatever scenarios you want to get yourself into. But
all ranging from crazy diabolical to just slightly diabolical.
Yeah. He's also the person responsible for an area of a course named the Pit of Despair. So
you only end up in the Pit of Despair if you make a wrong turn on Orcus, in my defense.
That's true.
And there's a big sign saying, "Don't go down here."
There is.
We try to sign that quite well.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. So that's we're talking about Orcas Island, which was, from the mind of Brent. I think when we did that race, I think as soon as we hit the Twin Lakes, I was like, we can't miss this turn chipper.
No, I was making sure that was something I was gonna make sure it didn't happen.
But Brent, really thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely.
Introducing us to the Bellingham Swim Run. Again, we can't encourage this race enough. We need to support our local race directors. And if you're at all interested in vacationing in beautiful Pacific Northwest and or doing Bellingham Swim Run, definitely check this race out. Brent, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the time, guys, and great talking to you again.
Of course.
Always.
Questraces.com. Brandon Nelson Partner Realtors.
It's basically like a drinking game.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swim run resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
too. Of course, yes.